Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the second half of our doubleheader. We started off with Inside the Pigskin. Now we take it to the Diamond and 108 Stitches Baseball Talk. Please be joined by our special guest, Sal Tartaglia of Liberty Bell, Smack host, and the award-winning author of World Series Chronology. Welcome to the broadcast, Sal.
How are you? Thanks for having me, Scott. Pleased to do it.
And, of course, we have Chase Blake, the loud Marlins fan.
It's great to be back here on 108 Stitches. Thank you, Baseball Talk. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's our pleasure. You've earned your way back on this program, mark my word. And, of course, Jordan Long.
Thanks for having me, Scott.
And finally, George Eichhorn, the other author.
Oh, yeah. Good to be back. And so good to be back with you guys on the baseball show. Thank you.
All right. Well, we've got a busy agenda tonight, and we're going to start out with a cap that Chase is wearing. Marlins second baseman Luis Arias, who's batting .399 going into today's action, is an absolute stud. He's the first player in franchise history to hit for the cycle. And on Saturday night, I saw him collect 5 hits, a franchise record along with 5 RBI. The first time this has happened in franchise history. He had 2 singles, 3 doubles, and he was acquired in a trade with Minnesota for Pablo Lopez, who himself was having a solid season. I would have to say it's a win-win trade for both of them. But you know what? We're going to go right to left, okay? So, Jordan, Luis Arias, what do you think of this guy?
He's hitting pretty well. I mean, a guy that's hitting .399, you don't see that a whole lot in the game today. I mean, yeah, the last person to hit 400 was Ted Williams, but the thing about it is we're only in June. I mean, the way he's smacking the ball, if he can even hit 370 for the rest of the year, that's still pretty good. I mean, you said you hit a cycle. He had 5 base hits. The guy's just raking, and that's what you want to see.
Yeah, raking, it's the right term there, Jordan. It really was what I was watching Saturday night. You know, to me, to be able to get a handful of hits, 3 of them doubles and 2, and I believe I think you mentioned that he had 5 RBIs in that game as well. It was just an unbelievable night for this guy. All right, George, Luis Arias, you don't have to face him with Minnesota, and we have him down here, but you get Pablo Lopez.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, get him out of our division here in the AL Central. The Tigers don't have to face them with Minnesota. You're right. And, you know, this kid's got a lot of potential. He's got a lot of great things going for himself right now. And it's so exciting to see somebody, like you said, Scott, you had a chance to witness firsthand. And when you see somebody that plays the game as well as he is, and he's hitting so well right now, it's a plus, definitely. The Marlins are doing really well. And obviously he's a big part of that. So I'm happy for the kid. I really am. And of course, we'll see him in Seattle at the All-Star game. That's also going to be fun for us baseball fans to watch.
All right, let's go to the chat room before we turn over to Sal. All right, because we're going to be going here a lot, I have a feeling. Lewis has 2 goals, get wins, and make history. Truer words can be spoken. Andrew, thank you very much for participating, and I hope you're a subscriber because you never know. Maybe one of these days I'm going to call on you to go ahead and be a part of this crew. So I should point out before I turn it over to Sal that for those individuals that are active in the chat room, what you do is you go ahead and stay active or subscribe to our channel, and you could be very well on one of our panels here talking with us as well. So, Andrew, thank you very much for that excellent comment, and we appreciate you very much. With that said, we are going to turn it over to Sal, okay? Arias.
Well, he's, an amazing player. It seems like it's a small sample, but he was good in Minnesota. I mean, he won a batting title last year with them. More pedestrian, 314, I believe he hit. But, this guy's on fire, and he comes over here, hits for the cycle. And it reminds me of Frank Robinson. You trade away his star because he was an old 32 or whatever the guy told him. So, I like you said, it was a win-win, but I sort of think Miami got the better end of this.
Yeah, I think Kim Ng did a good job pulling the strings on this trade.
Yeah.
Christina Guffney, go, and thanks for joining us. We appreciate you, Christina. Again, another fresh face in the chat room. We are so delighted to have you with us, Christina. Thank you for joining us. All right. And last but not least, the man in our neck of the woods that's seen this guy play a lot. All right, Chase, give me what you got.
First, let me give a shout out to Andrew Martin. He's one of my good friends. became a Marlins fan in 2020 during the COVID season, moved to South Florida from Louisiana. So, Andrew, thanks for joining. Appreciate you, and I better see you here every Tuesday night. With that being said, Luis.
Yeah, but he forgot to tell him he also expects you to subscribe so that way he can see me in action. Right there, Chase?
Definitely. Better hit that subscribe button so you see more than just our show. See all the content that South Florida Tribune gets you.
There you go.
With that being said, Luis Arraez is going to throw some numbers at you, especially to Sal, who Luis hit that cycle in Philadelphia earlier this season. Luis Arraez on Friday, I was at that game. He went 0 for 4. Since that game, he's done nothing but hit. 5 for 5 Saturday, 2 for 4 Sunday, 3 for 4 Monday, and 2 for 4 today. Going into today's game, he was at 399. Now he's at 401. So he is over 400 as of this evening. In all seriousness, he's hitting that much, and we're in the third month of the season already. He's hitting 300 average with 2 outs. That's unheard of. He's in conversations with guys like Tony Gwynn, Ted Williams, Art Wilson. The things that he's accomplishing right now are just amazing in today's game. He's in 2022, the Marlin with the highest batting average was Garrett Cooper. He was at 261. Luis Arraez is almost 200 points away from that. So this guy is our MVP. He deserves to be the National League starting second baseman, so get your votes out for that. And really nothing bad to say in that trade. Love Pablo. Very hard to give him up. But the player that we got back from him, it's a win-win for both teams.
And speaking of that average, I mean, it's highly unlikely he's going to hit 400, but Williams being the last one, like you said. Brett came close, 388. And I think Gwynn, I think it was like 394 or something, but that was the strike year. He had the best shot. He got robbed. But anybody else you think? This guy came out of the blue. Yeah, he won a bat title last year, but nobody hits like this.
It's every time he gets up and goes to the plate, if you watch, he changes his swing, and it doesn't matter where they put him, whether he's at the 1 spot, the 2, the 3, the 4, the 5. He's hitting in every role, which is why he's our MVP, driving in those runs or getting on base for Jorge Soler to hit those monster dongs.
Yeah, you're trending the right way. Absolutely. No doubt.
You're good. He's bright, this kid. I'm telling you. All right. All right. Well, you know what? I'm going to go on a topic that Chase went ahead and brought up. But you know what, Chase? I'll mention it, and you're going to start. We're going to go around the horn beginning with you. All right. So let's go to bad investments. Talks about Jason Giambi. Of course, now who's retired, okay, but Javi Baez, Chris Bryant, Trevor Story, Eric Hosmer, $400 million not to play. All right, Chase, we're going to start you off on this one.
I wanted to speak about this topic because as far as I can think back to my baseball days when I was old enough to understand the game and free agency, I remember the Jason Giambi deal. For some reason that hit me. It was at the time one of the largest deals in baseball, if not the largest, when the Yankees gave him, I believe it was $120 million for 8 years. You know what that rewarded the New York Yankees with for those 8 years that he was with them? 0 World Series rings.
And you know what? That's not to cut you off. I'm sorry. That's karma because they always go out, starting with Kansas City. Every time they had a start, first they forced the A's out of Philly. They stopped that sale. Then it was an outpost in KC. They got all these stars that cultivated there, and it was so obvious. And then finally, the commish, I forget who it was, Chandler. I don't even remember. He said he put the kibosh on the Maris trade. And then the next year they did it. Okay, like what was all that posturing? I mean, come on. So the Yankees had karma bite them in the ass with Giambi, and I'm glad because every time they would see somebody in the playoffs, and he almost single-handedly beat them in the ALCS, So they said, let's go get this guy, because he's killing us. Right. So I'm glad it happened.
I'm glad also. I'm never happy with the Yankees winning a World Series. Sorry.
They can never win another one. I'll be fine with that. Well, that's enough.
Exactly. But I bring that to today's game and seeing these contracts that are being given out. And I go, are the contracts that being given or rewarding the players for past play with the new team, are they justifiable with winning a championship? And so far, if you look at it, it's not. Here's some numbers for you guys for this season. New York Mets have the highest payroll at $345 million. Yankees are second with $279 million. San Diego, $247. Philadelphia, $244. And LA Dodgers at $227. Only one of those teams are in first place as of today, and that's the top, or going into today, and that was tied. The Los Angeles Dodgers were tied with the Diamondbacks. The Mets, third place, they're at 500. I didn't see the result of their game versus the Braves. The Yankees are in second place. San Diego and Philly in fourth place. And you look at that contract to Trey Turner that was given out last year, this year, the 11-year, $300 million deal. Is it helping those teams win? My answer is no.
Well, it's still early with Trey. I mean, Trey sort of snapped out yesterday. He had a couple homers. It's June, and historically, since we've got Schwarber, every year it seems June they light up. And so far, they're on a 4-game winning streak. But yeah, I mean, I can't call that a bad contract yet. It's 2 months into the season, not 2.5. But yeah, I mean, it's enough to say, yo, what are you going to do? But I'm not worried. I'm really not worried about him. You just can't stop being great.
A little notation here from Lance. Rulu, get louder, Marlins. 2 hashtags. There you go. All right. Well,
are we going around the horn with the investments?
Yeah, we are.
Okay, so I'm last, right?
Well, no, as far as I'm concerned, you can go ahead now if you want.
All right, I want to bring up A-Rod, but just in Texas, because he panned out in New York, but and that hamstrung that team for years. That organization was stuck in the mud, But Ryan Howard, again, you're talking about Chase, talking about paying a guy for what he's done, and they put a stranglehold on the NL East when he came up. First of all, he came up a little too late. It's a shame. He got held up like 5 years. He would have had 500 homers, but we had Tomey. So that's a great problem to have, a 600 homer guy. I mean, what do you do? But I feel bad for Ryan because he would have definitely, and that contract might have not been when he got hurt. Who knows? But yeah, he got the contract, and the first year of the contract, they lost the first time they lost bad in the playoffs to the Cardinals, and he hurt his Achilles. But no one and no deal equals Bobby Bonilla. and my favorite team to make fun of, the New York Mets.
Yeah, I was kind of waiting for you. Sal, I was kind of waiting for the Bobby Bonilla to come on. Sometimes when I come on these shows and I let the panels talk, 2 things could happen. 1, I won't lose my voice if I have a good enough crew. And 2, I'll learn a lot because you guys that's just fun to listen to. That's all. That's okay for the host to be a spectator. There's nothing wrong with that.
That's great. That means the show is really flowing.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I told you it's Sal, GMTA, great minds think alike.
Yeah.
And that's exactly where you're at with me, Mr. Sal.
Both you guys, when you were on my show, I asked a question, you would talk for like 12 minutes. It was great. It was like the night off.
Yeah, well, anytime you need me again, I'm here.
I told him, I talked to him yesterday. I told him, so we're going to push this. I'm not going to stop telling him.
That sounds good to me. I love being out of the air with you and Madman and Marianne. They're good. All right. So are you done with your bad investments?
Sure.
All right,
give somebody else a chance.
Oh, that's okay. Sal, I'm having a blast with you and Chase. I knew when I come up with these crews here with these other people, wait till we bring in new blood. It's fun. All right, George.
Well, I pine for baseball all the time, but we have a mixed show, and it's not always. Last 2 shows, nothing but baseball. I loved it. I was in my glory.
Well, right now, the biggest concern in Detroit is what the heck is Javi Baez doing? And why the heck did the Tigers sign this bum? He's ridiculous. And I'll tell you what, from his fielding, from his errors he's making, from his strikeouts and going after pitches he shouldn't be swinging at, it's terrible. And A.J. Hinch leaves him in the number 2 or number 3 hole, and he does nothing. He didn't do anything tonight in Philadelphia. He didn't do anything last night in Philadelphia. And the Tigers are stuck with this guy. Now, I don't know. If they try benching him, A.J. did that once already earlier this year, and it did provide a bit of a spark. But I'll tell you what, that spark's gone now. And the Tigers are sinking faster than I can believe after exciting people with a nice run. But, of course, they've got so many guys on the DL. I mean, you've got Riley Green is hurt, and Rodriguez is out, their best pitcher. But I tell you what, that Baez contract, guys, That stinks.
All right, Jordan.
I'm going to go with Chris Bryant. I mean, the Rockies brought him to Colorado to be the face, basically the face of the franchise. And what have we gotten for it? 10 home runs, and he's only played in 92 games. So many stints on this on the disabled list or the injured list as well. And I'm just sitting there going, why did you sign this guy? The only reason why is he's a big name. You got rid of Trevor Story. Obviously, we know that we traded Nolan Arenado a couple of years ago. So they brought Chris Bryant to be the face of the franchise. It just hasn't worked. The thing is, though, we're locked in for another, 8 years with him? 5 years. I mean, until he goes to free agency. The only way the Rockies are going to get rid of him is if they trade him. Of course, I know this is his second year of his deal. Still has time to show that he's earned that contract. But right now, I'd have to say, no, it's a terrible investment. And it's the only reason why is to throw money at him for him to come to Colorado.
Yeah.
Well, I think the Cubs knew when to cut bait with Bryant, and they did. They let him go to Frisco, and then he goes to Colorado. So they must have known something we didn't know. All right. So with that, go ahead, Chase.
Just want to jump in real quick on that. Trevor Story and Javi Baez have the same contract, 6 years, $140 million. So it's insane that y'all are stuck with them. From a fan's point of view, on Twitter and whatnot, all the Marlins fans were calling for big name signings. Sign the big names. Sign the big names. They just don't care. Some fans just don't get that you got to put the right puzzle pieces together, and it's not all about one player in baseball. You think about what they're going to do with these players. Look at Eric Hosmer. He signed an 8-year, $144 million deal with the San Diego Padres after his success with Kansas City. Since he lasted 4 years and then was almost traded to Washington, but he blocked that. So we ended up going to Boston at the end of last season, signed as a free agent this season with the Cubs, and he's been cut already. So he's still getting paid that guaranteed money, but it's only going down the drain for the Padres.
Yeah.
All right, well, onwards we go. Shohei Ohtani, everybody's favorite person to talk about. He's amazing me. He's got 500 plus Ks and 100 plus home runs. All right, Sal, you can take the lead on this one.
Just to quickly tag along with Chase's last statement.
Sure.
You just can't put stars together. And being as we brought up Ohtani, I like to use Anaheim as a great example because you can go back to when they had Carew and Jackson and Freddie Lynn and all these stars, and it didn't pan out, didn't do anything. And recently too with Albert, Pujols, and Rendon. I don't know. That's where stars go to die. It seems like, and because of that, I'm hoping Moreno took the team off the market because first of all, he realized he has a unicorn. And all of a sudden, he's got 32,000 seats per game. 32,000 fans per game in the seats. And that's up from 30 last year, and it was nothing the year before that. He wasn't drawing anybody. It was like Tampa. It wasn't that bad. But so now that they're drawing, and he's got, the main attraction in baseball, and he's going to have to, he decided to retain the team. And I was hoping that new ownership would be more inclined to, the bottom line when they first got in, because they're not going to win anything right away. I don't think anyhow, but even though they're in line this year, they're competitive. But so my hope was new ownership would be more inclined to, talk about a deal. Now that Moreno kept the team, I think he thinks he can do it, but you're going to have to spend $500 million to keep Shohei. So I'm hoping he can't pay Trout. And then he'll, sign him. And Trout, being a Philly guy, he loves it. And there's something to be said about, I don't know if you guys, football, we got that kid, that linebacker that played for Temple, Hassan Reddick, okay? And he was always a pretty good ball player. He came here and he's a pro baller. He was like, it went off the chart because he's home. He loves it. Well, that's how Trout, I think, it's that extra intangible. He's already great. I think he would be a tad better because he's playing where he likes to be. So that's my hope with that. And because Ohtani, let's face it, the guy's amazing. He's the first one since Ruth. He's got 500 Ks, the quickest ever, 100 homers. I don't know if he was the quickest to that, but I remember when Canigliaro was the quickest to 100, and shame he might have been a 500 home guy, who knows? But since then, that record's been broke by other people. I don't remember who, but I don't know if he's in line with that. But again, if they keep him, I'm not saying it can't happen, but my hope is that they start thinking about talking to people, at least about a deal with Mike Trout. That's my hope.
Well, one thing I'll say about Shohei Ohtani, when I was out at spring training in the Cactus League, the amount of Japanese reporters there was unbelievable. And I covered the game, and I was like, wow. I mean, it's just, I couldn't believe the pregame. And then last year I saw him play against the Marlins. Don Mattingly and I talked about him a little bit, and that was one of their better crowds. When I was down there, it was just surreal what this guy does.
Yeah.
I mean, he's not a miracle worker. You can't put 30,000 people, 35,000 at Marlins Park, but, you get 20, 25,000. He's a gate winner there in Miami. And no disrespect to the Marlins, they treat us great. But let's face it, Ohtani with those numbers is off the charts. All right, Chase, give me your thoughts on Ohtani.
Ohtani's magic. He's something that you don't ever see in baseball. The numbers that he's putting up, the 500 and the 100 home runs, 500 Ks, 100 home runs. It's just something that, as a baseball fan, I think we could all appreciate. It hasn't happened since Babe Ruth, right? And it's just amazing. As far as his contract's concerned, he will be, as Sal said, the first guy to get paid $500 million. But what teams can afford that if not the Angels? He's already said he doesn't want to go to the Mets, but money talks, right? And I think Steve Cohen will open up his checkbook to get him. You were at the game last year at Lone Depot Park. That was one of the only sellouts last year for us. And he draws. And the amount of media attendance he draws. So you hope those franchise who does sign him gets the money out of it. But it's just magic. Marlins were there last weekend, or 2 weekends ago now. It was nice to sweep the Angels, but it was even nicer to see Ohtani live on TV, right? So I wish him nothing but the best, and we'll have many more conversations about his greatness here.
No doubt about it. Well, the only thing team I can imagine is the Dodgers, and that's it. So with that said, I'm going to turn over to Jordan.
The thing about Shohei Ohtani is, like Chase said, great baseball talent. The thing is, though, it really doesn't seem like the Angels, I don't want to say they don't want to build a winning team, but it doesn't seem like they right now are building a team for him to actually succeed. Sure, they have Mike Trout, and Mike Trout may be leaving here soon. But the thing is Shohei Ohtani needs to go somewhere he can be successful, right, to go to the playoffs, to win a World Series. And I do agree with you, Scott. I think the Dodgers make a lot of sense because they would pay for him, especially since he's one of those talents that you don't see every day because he can pitch and hit.
Yeah, it makes too much sense for him to go anywhere but the Dodgers. All right, George.
Well, he is a wonderful, wonderful guy to watch. And we had a guy back in 1976 in Detroit named Mark the Bird Fitterich, who would sell out games at Tiger Stadium, the old Tiger Stadium. And, of course, he did not hit home runs like Ohtani. But I'll tell you what, I think you nailed it, Sal. The Angels will not be able to afford both he and Trout. It's not going to happen. And they best prepare for that right now because they are really they've been a frustrating franchise for many, many years. They got the one series title, but they've spent so much money over the years, just like the Phillies. They've spent so much money, and other teams like the Yankees and Dodgers, etc. But yeah, the teams that have the big wallets are going to be able to bid for his services. He's a great player. He's a great asset to the game, and like you said, Scott, he opens up the media to a number of Asian reporters that follow him. Right. I think it's great, and he's a great find. I wish we could get him somewhere in Detroit, but that's not going to happen here. But anyways, I agree. He's going to go to the highest bidder, $500 million. It's going to be an unbelievable contract, but Angels will not be able to afford both he and Trout.
Well,
George, don't give up hope because since there is a Shohei Ohtani, just like the 4-minute mile. As soon as somebody does it, there's going to be other Shoheis coming. So
there you go. Yeah.
if he goes to Detroit, the only thing I can tell you is he owns a Renaissance Center, and that's it.
Yeah,
'Cause that's expensive real estate. So
he can have whatever building he wants. Scott.
yeah, I don't care.
Yeah.
There's a lot of good real estate thanks to Dan Gilbert and the Illiches and Tom Gores or whoever's involved in
Yeah.
that. All right.
What's going on with Illich now? He's no longer revered, I'm sure, but he put 60% of that stadium funding together, so he wasn't ostracized at some point, right? Now they hate him, they want him gone, right?
Well, the father is gone. Mike died, and so his son Chris is running, and the wife is still in the scene, but she's up there in age. But to answer your question, Chris does not have the passion that Mike had. And the Mike's passion goes back, as Scott knows, back to supporting youth hockey, youth baseball, and he played once for the Tigers. So Mike Ilitch, we miss him. We really do, because
Turn the Red Wings around.
his son Chris is more of a bottom line guy.
Yeah,
He doesn't have the passion the old man had for the baseball team.
shame.
Yeah.
Shame.
Well, that's all right. All right. So, let's talk about expansion. All right. And I'm going to lead off with Jordan. I'm going to go around here. I always love to talk about expansion. I hear from what I remember, correct me if I'm wrong, I think the Oakland A's had some issues with the funding over up at the Capitol today. Is that right, Chase? So I'm going to defer to you last so you can give us an overview. But we're going to break down a couple of cities. And Jordan, we're going to start off with you this time, okay? So who should get the next MLB teams? The ones that are commonly mentioned be Portland, Nashville, Salt Lake City, Charlotte, and of course, I know a lot of people would love to see the Montreal Expos back. But that said, okay, Jordan, who do you think gets the last two teams?
I mean, I would love to see Montreal get a team back, but they've already screwed that up with what they did with having the Expos leave town, going to Washington. I would like to see. I mean, and we know that Charlotte makes a whole lot of sense. They're a great sports town. I mean, they support the Panthers. They support the Hurricanes. Another spot that also could make a little sense is Portland. I mean, Portland knows they support the Trailblazers. They support their college teams. The one place that doesn't make sense to me is Salt Lake City, because they really only have one pro sports team, and that's the Utah Jazz. Yeah, they support it, but I just don't see how a team could actually succeed in Salt Lake City.
Okay, George.
Well, obviously Vegas, if the Oakland A's get that situation straightened out, and I understand they missed a vote on the legislative package that they were proposing, but Oakland to Vegas, I mean, to me, that's a decent move. Nashville, Dave Dombrowski, before he took the Phillies job, Dave did a nice job working with the community of Nashville to try to get a team. To me, Nashville definitely deserves a team. And I think Charlotte, our friend Rick Curdy has been trying for years to try to spearhead that effort publicity-wise. Charlotte deserves a team, but I don't know. I don't think they would go to Nashville and Charlotte, two mostly East time zone. Well, I think Nashville's Central Time. I don't think so. But if they get the situation straightened out in Vegas, I still think that my two would be Nashville 1, Charlotte 2.
Okay, I'll turn it over to you, Sal.
Yeah, I'm against expansion. I think it's overkill. You got enough teams, but Portland's a good fit if you have to do it, because they've been robbed from other sports franchises leaving. But if you held a gun to my head, I'm going to defer to George and give our buddy Tim Rick Curdy a shout out for his Charlotte Bats team. Carolina, wherever they go in Carolina, it'll get supported, because you see the other sport teams that they have. So I think they're left out, and it's weird because that's a big void, from Washington and Baltimore area to Florida, and to Atlanta, and there's nothing going on in between. So
who are your two, Sal?
I would say Charlotte and then Portland, because of the history of them getting teams yanked out of their city, right.
Okay. Okay, Chase, that leaves you.
I look at these teams or these cities that are mentioned here and are in the expansion talks, and I go, okay, who are they currently watching in their markets? What fan base would they be able to steal, or what consumers would be able to steal away from other markets? You look at Nashville and Charlotte. They're too close together to both get it, as I think it was George had said. It's too close to each other. Just because you don't have that large market to steal away from Atlanta Braves because that's really who you're taking from there.
Right.
There's no Marlin fans in those cities, and if there are, thank you for your support. Nashville, I love Broadway, one of the best towns to go visit for a weekend and whatnot. So they'll be able to draw some tourists for some games. I could see the St. Louis and the Cubs fans who travel everywhere. They would love Broadway in Nashville. As far as this deal with Las Vegas, today they lost a bid for $400 million of public funding. So that may or may not happen. But the Oakland Athletics have to get out of Oakland or be given a stadium here, right? Now, my two cities of choice, as I said, I love Nashville. I didn't mention Portland because it's Portland, and they'd be taken away from Seattle as North
Right.
End. Unless they get the Oakland A's, right? That's different. But if to build a new team there, to have to build a fan base when you're taken away from now San Francisco, what was Oakland, and taken away from Seattle, I just don't see it happening. Their stadium might be empty like Miami's is because it just happens that way. Now, if they are going to do it, they need to add someone. They need to add a team in the West and add a team on the East. And they need to change the conferences from American League and National League to
Right.
Eastern and Western and redo all the divisions, make it easier to travel. And really, my last point here, which we could discuss in another show, is they need to add that salary cap because if you're going to expand into more teams, the league has to be more competitive. And Major League Baseball has to showcase all 30-plus teams. They can't just focus on the 10 they do now. It's not fair to the small markets and it stops them from growing. So those are my thoughts there. So Nashville is a definitely, and I'll just throw, let's go Vegas in there.
All right. Well, here's where I'm going to go with this. Number one, Chase, you mentioned a lot of good points. I would find it hard for Portland to get a team unless it were the A's if Vegas falls apart because of the competition factor between Portland and Seattle. And I've taken that drive, and they're about an hour and a half away from each other. I can't imagine that far away. So, with that said, to me, that would only leave in my eyes Charlotte and Nashville, and that's what I would go with. So.
And again, Scott, just to Chase's point, I agree, though. I think they're too close together. And then you got Atlanta there, and then you got the Virginia area there that might come down to Charlotte, et cetera. But, I think those two teams are more prepared, those two cities, like you said.
And I would love for Montreal to get another team. I think what Jeffrey Loria did with Major League Baseball back then was horrible. They deserve a team. That fan base wants it back, but they have to get the public funding. That's a must.
And a stadium. Yeah, they need that stadium.
Yeah, there's a good point. All right, we got Sal back. All right.
Sorry about that.
All right. Oh, that's okay. No problem. All right, so on to the next topic, one that we're all too familiar with. Miguel Cabrera's farewell tour. Tigers are playing the Phillies this week. All right. All right, Sal. Have you had a chance to get out to see Miggy yet?
Yeah. Well, he had a double tonight in the fifth inning. His numbers are down, and what the hell? I mean, it's a shame. I think his contract is holding the organization back at this point. But if there was an ideal time for it to be an albatross around their neck, it would be now because they're trying to trend in the right direction. Not that it's good to, have that weight around financially for them, but it would be better now, I think, than if they were in contention, to waste money, so to speak, for sentimental reasons. I love Mickey. I mean, he's only one of 7 guys that have 300 hits and 500 homers, but he's only one of 3, along with Mays and Aaron, that also have a 300 batting average, over 300. So, he's an icon, and, he earned this. So he should be able to do what he's got to do. Detroit will rebound from it next year, I guess, but they'll have a lot of money to spend when he goes. There was a sort of a reunion tonight because, as you know, Dombrowski, our president in Philadelphia, he drafted him when he was in Florida, the Florida Marlins, still not the Miami. Right. And then he traded for him when he got to Detroit. So they have a pretty good history. And, we traded last year. We got their closer Soto. I don't know how he got 30 saves. He doesn't look to be he doesn't look horrible, but the eye test tells me, maybe it's because of the way they're using him here, or maybe somebody else can shed light on that for me, because, I was like, wow, we're getting a guy with 30 saves along with Alvarez. We should be really good in the pen. And to me, the pen stinks. I don't know, but I heard a stat the other day, like 2 games ago, from April 14th till it was like, I don't know, it was June 1st or 2nd. They have the best ERA, our bullpen, 2.35, the best in the National League. I don't see it. What games are they looking at?
Right,
I don't know how it happens. Maybe it's a good ERA, but they still blow the game somehow. It's possible. But getting back to Miggy, it's rare that you see it's rare that you see this, like you saw it with Ripken. You earn the right to do whatever it is for that last year. It's a shame his numbers are so bad, but they'll forget all about that. That won't be anywhere near that bronze plate that they're going to engrave. It's not going to say he had a bad last year or not. So,
All right. Well, Andrew Martin agreed. Miguel, we love you, but the other half of that part is please retire. Well, Andrew, it's happening later.
yeah.
So he'll go out whatever way. I can only imagine what the reception he's going to get in Miami next month. So, but that said, all right, Chase, he started here in Miami, and Dave Dombrowski fleeced the Marlins with that trade. Give me your thoughts about Miguel Cabrera, Chase.
It's sad to see his numbers so low. Like, as a lifelong fan of Miguel Cabrera, the longevity of his career, it's 20 years, right? He came up in middle of 2003. He got championship glory right away. I'll let George speak about this. He brought that team to glory in Detroit. They made 2 World Series under his tutelage, and he brought up a bunch of young guys under him to perform. If you think about his career, it's been a clean career. He was never pinged in that end of that steroid era for ever taking steroids. His name was never involved there. And then he won a Triple Crown. It's just, he's had a great career. He won it celebrated more. I kind of enjoy what I see in the news clips on SportsCenter of cities awarding him either the key of the city or the MLB franchises are giving him gifts, which he deserves. You remember in other leagues, they do that. Kobe Bryant, he got his tour. May he rest in peace. But it's nice. Last year, you had Albert Pujols get his tour. Question is, they created a spot last year for Miguel in the All-Star game. Are they going to do that again for his swan song? And really, you mentioned Miami. He's going to get a huge ovation when he comes down for that Detroit series. The World Baseball Classic kind of messed up with his home team, Venezuela. It was 2 outs, bottom of the 9th. They were down by a run, I believe, and they could have put him in to pinch hit, and definitely he would have hit that walk-off. Storytelling, right? But I'll pass it on to George if that's okay, because I want to hear the other side of his.
You know what, Chase? You're good. You can pass it on to him all day long. Go ahead.
Well, you got, I have to be honest with you guys, you got some mixed feelings up here, some of the sports talk radio stations. But you know what, Sal? You bring up a good point. The talk here is that had the Tigers been able to contend, and then we're not saying they still can't.
Right.
He is an albatross this year. AJ can only play him like every other day. He has no power left at all. He got a double today in Philly, but he has no power, and the home runs are not there. And obviously his average has been hovering below the Mendoza line, as they say. And, I love Miggy, but I mean, there was a very generous contract, obviously, that Dombrowski and Ilitch gave him. And this happens. We've seen this happen in many sports. But does he deserve the farewell tour? Hell yes. And the Tigers are marketing every bit as they can. They've got a Miggy ticket package where you can get your bobbleheads and get a commemorative, plaque that they're going to give the fans in September or whatever. So, I mean, the team has done all it can to make this as comfortable as they can, as nice as they can. And you're right, Chase, he is being rewarded with gifts every city he goes to. We love him, but it's sad that it has to be in what will be his poorest hitting season as a professional.
Can you guys name another player that went out like this with those low numbers?
Sal's my resident historian. Sal, there's got to be.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm thinking.
That's a good question.
I mean,
Schmidt retired mid-season in '86.
oh, did he? Yeah.
I was mad because I thought, a good season or two, he had a shot at 600. He had 548 total homers, but his average was down. I didn't think he was as bad, but he pulled a DiMaggio. He was like, I'm not playing like I can play, and if you remember what Joe said when he was, I think he had an off year, and he came back to his last year and batted 300, and then he retired. Anyway, a reporter was asking him when he was older, in his twilight, why do you play so hard? He said, hey, it might be a kid that comes out here and sees me for the first time playing today. That says it all. That says it all. So, I can't really think of one, but I'm sure there's others because, this topic, and we do the same thing. If we love the guy, we make excuses. He earned it, whatever. And if we don't, he's a bum. Get rid of him. You want to hang him in effigy. But Schmidt, I thought retired a little too early. But he was not Mike Schmidt that last year. But it wasn't as dramatic as this Miggy situation. No way.
Thank you.
Okay, well, you know what? Jordan, as always, is waiting patiently. I love the way Jordan just sits back, listens, and waits patiently. Not that he doesn't know what he's doing anyways, but Jordan, to me, is the biggest sponge and has a heck of a lot of knowledge. He's our best kept secret on this planet. Panel, go ahead, Jordan.
It is sad to see Miguel Cabrera be, he's only hitting 196 as of today. I know him as a power hitter. I went to Detroit, did some great things there. He definitely deserves the farewell tour, and I know he's going to be in the Baseball Hall of Fame once it's all said and done. And I wish his numbers were a little bit better, but at least he's getting this farewell tour where people can actually see him for the last time to actually play in their ballparks.
Yeah, the only thing I'll say about Miggy, it's been a privilege to watch him. It's been a privilege to watch him get that Triple Crown, which a lot of us wondered if that would happen for a while. He did manage to do it. And you know what? Farewell tour very well. And everybody knows Mike Ilitch will pay his favorites, and he should. That just shows you what a class organization the Tigers can be when they are patient. And, I have no problem with this farewell tour. The only thing I wonder about, and Chase, you're the one who brought it up, I don't know whether he gets back to the All-Star game because I had that good moment with Pujols, but we'll see. If indeed he gets there, I'll tell you what, Sal, be ready for an invite for that one. We'll bring it back on.
Interject the question you asked me before, but now that I would sit and think about it, Mays had a dramatic fall off his last year, and they gave him an All-Star appearance and all that, and he wound up getting in the World Series, 73 with the Mets, and a little side note of interest for anybody, as good as he was when he retired, he was number 3 on the all-time home run list, right? 660 behind Hank. Well, I don't know if Hank had passed Ruth. He was still playing, but he was number 3, no matter who was number 1 and 2, and yet never hit a home run in any World Series that he was in. Bully man. Isn't that crazy? Yeah.
Well, there you go. Chase, you got your answer. One more topic I want to get to, and then we're going to talk a little World Series chronology. How about that, sir?
All right.
All right. First of all, unfortunate news. I don't like talking about this, but unfortunately, it's part of the job. Rangers pitcher Jacob deGrom will undergo Tommy John surgery to repair a ulnar collateral ligament tear. GM Chris Young announced today on December 2nd of 2022, he signed a 5-year, $185 million deal with Texas. He also had Tommy John surgery back in 2010 with the New York Mets. So if you think the Miguel Cabrera deal is an albatross, Jacob deGrom certainly doesn't rank too high with his issues. But, I want to start out with Jordan this time.
I am not surprised with Jacob deGrom being hurt. I mean, the last 4 years, he's hasn't pitched that well. I mean, with the Mets, 2020, only 12 starts, 2021, 15, 2022, 11, and this year, 6. I mean, when this deal was made for Jacob deGrom to go to Texas, I didn't like the deal only because I knew about his injury history, and now you're seeing it. And it's too bad that now he's shut down for Tommy John surgery because he's one of the better pitchers in the game when healthy, but he hasn't been healthy for a couple of years. So, I mean, the Texas Rangers are going to have to go on without him, but it's sad to see DeGrom back being injured again.
The only thing I'll add to that before I turn over to George Eichhorn is that I think the New York Mets are probably glad they don't have to deal with this injury situation anymore, and that's it. So, all right, George.
Yeah, a good point, Jordan. You look back on his most recent past, I mean, 12 games in 2020, 15 in 21, 11 in 2022, and now only 6 in 2023. I'll tell you what, Rangers, that was a huge gamble, giving him all that kind of money. And yes, it's unfortunate. And yes, you cannot predict a serious injury like this and the resulting surgery that he's going to need. But boy, oh boy, the Rangers, they really, really have to be reeling from this setback. And I wish DeGrom the best of luck. But like you said, Jordan, he's missed a lot of games in the recent years, and they far outpaid him. I would never have given him all that money either.
Yeah, it definitely was a gamble. All right, Chase, give me your take on this.
Texas Rangers were in a win now mode. They spent a lot of money the last couple of years on free agents, and they took DeGrom, who's I believe from Texas. They used that to their advantage to get him back to the home state, and I believe that's what happened. $185 million 5-year deal. Now there is a Tommy John clause in that contract that they could give them a 6-year option worth $20 to $37 million. So they have that extra year now that's going to be added to that deal as an option. But will they take it? I mean, this goes back to our original conversation of tonight, right? Our first topic, or second topic, I should say. You're rewarding all these free agents with a lot of money for their past play. This guy's injury prone. You should have known what you're getting. And they got what they should have known they're getting, and that's an injury-prone player. Wish him the best of luck. He killed the Marlins when he was healthy, so I hope he comes back and helps those fans in Texas celebrate.
All right, Chase, I want to ask you a quick question before I turn it over to Sal, okay? Why don't you repeat that Tommy John clause in the contract? Can you?
Yeah, his contract includes a Tommy John surgery clause that now gives Texas a 6-year club option worth between $20 million and $37 million, depending on awards, voting awards, and innings totals. So it'll probably be the lower end of that since he didn't pitch too many innings this year.
Okay, thanks for clarifying. All right, Sal, go ahead.
I first of all, I just don't understand, him, Strasburg, like what's going on? You never heard of this in the old days. Guys were workhorses, I don't know if it's something they're doing wrong in training or whatever, but getting to Texas, I mean, it just seems to me that some franchises are snake bit, and they're always in a win now situation, Chase, going back to Nolan Ryan. And then A-Rod, and they spend, they make the rest of the league mad at what they do. They make contracts go up, like 140% instead of like incrementally. They're crazy down there, and it's different owners that did the same thing. So I just think they're snake bit. With the DeGrom situation, I thought he was frail and fragile in New York, and he was great, but occasionally, Right. So I just think he's in danger of being finished. I really believe that.
Everybody had great points here. I have nothing really more to add. So the only thing I do have to add is Mr. Sal is going to talk about World Series chronology, a book that he's written. The floor is yours, Sal.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I published a book called Chronology, as you said, and it differs in any other dedicated World Series book. In that you'll get everything you're supposed to get if you ever read the Baseball Encyclopedia. By the way, great publication, but no longer published now because the Cohen brothers or David, I forget the author's name. There was 3 of them. They retired. But you're going to find everything in my book that you would in their book. But I did all the research for the reader, and I combined them in boxes. So you could find, for instance, in the encyclopedia, you might have to look at page 920 and page 1242 to know that the Yankees have the most consecutive wins, 5. They also did it 4 times. But the second franchise, not team, second franchise in line is Oakland. 72, 3, and 4. So, that pops right off the page. It's right in the same category. You don't have to look at page here and thumb through it and all. And there's what I think sells my book, though, are oddities. And these are things that I just were aware of as a child, as a fan, as a baseball geek. And a lot of times you don't read about any of these things, or it's something stated but obscurely, and then I bring it to light for the reader. For instance, in the New York Giants in 1912 and 1924, they lost 2 World Series, 7-game extra inning affairs on errors. You can't write this stuff. Yeah. So they, that's 2 that they let slip right between their fingers. 1960, when Maz hit the home run. Little weird thing. It's not that relevant to the outcome, but I believe in numerology and pixie dust and baseball guides and all that. As a child, as a fan, you retain that if you read my book. In 60, Maz hit the home run. It was a 9-9 game in the 9th inning, and he wore number 9 on his jersey. So, just weird little things like that. Of course, it would have never happened if Kubek doesn't take the ball in the throat in the 8th inning. But let me digress. Another one is one of my favorites. I think I talked to you about this, George, on our show. There's there was a dubious record for World Series delays, and it was 6 days in 1911. The entire Eastern Seaboard was being deluged with a torrential rainstorm. Okay. And New York and Philly were in the series. So they couldn't go to either venue. So they just had to wait it out. So it was 6 days, and they wound up playing. I don't want to get into the particulars. 79 years later, 3,000 miles across the continent, that record was broken when he had an 11th day delay as a result of an earthquake. Here's the knock. It was the same 2 franchises from 1911. Only Philly A's were now the Oakland A's, and the San Francisco Giants the New York Giants were now the San Francisco Giants. So that dubious, weird, odd record, again, that's the meat of my book, I think, oddities, followed these 2 franchises around almost a century and across the continent. And there's other things, too. There's never been a cycle hitting in a World Series. Like I said earlier, Mays never had a World Series home run, So, yeah, I think the oddities is the meat of my book, and that's what I think sells it.
Well, let me ask you a question, Sal. Do you update this book every year?
No, I published it right when Washington had that odd thing with all road wins against Houston. And by the way, when they did that, they were the first and only team that ever do that. And there was a team that won every home game, the Twins, and they did it twice. And the Twins, as you know, came from Washington. So they're sort of related to the Nationals, where one team won all home, one team won all away games. But no, I stopped publishing after that. I do addendums on my website, but I haven't really put my website in play where you can it's difficult for one of the readers to get in. But I do have everything up to last year, the Phillies in Houston. So they're addendums. So if people had purchased the book, I was going to invite them free to my website, but it never really panned out. I didn't put it in play. As a result, though, to substitute that, what I do is I post every day excerpts, little things of examples of what you might find in my book and how it relates.
Very good.
It's available on Amazon. It's very affordable, and it would be a great gift for Dad.
That's what I was going to do.
Yeah, great gift for Dad. Dad's Day's coming up.
So you say it's available on Amazon?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Very good. There you go, guys. All right, Jordan and Chase, anything you want to ask Sal about his book?
No.
Okay, I was going to say, where can I tell the team, the people that are listening, where can I tell them to get it? But they better be going on Amazon right now to pick that book up for their family members or for their fathers or Father's Day. I look forward to picking up a copy myself. I'm going to find a way to get it to you so you could sign it for me.
Absolutely. No problem. Oh, yeah. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Well, all right. So let's go ahead and let everybody find out how they get a hold of us. Before they do that, though, I'm going to mention one more time that the audio version of 108 Stitches Baseball Talk can be heard on iHeartRadio, Apple, Spotify, Google, wherever you get your podcast. This show is being broadcast around the world. Please hit the red subscribe button on YouTube, South Florida Tribune. We're striving for 1,000 subscribers. Please also comment, like, and share the broadcast. Want to be a guest? No problem. Participate in the chat room is one way to do it. Send topic ideas to southfloridatribune@gmail.com. If you want to advertise cost efficiently, call me at 954-304-4941. We are live on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube. My Twitter handle is at Tribune South. Our website is www.southfloridatribune.com, and Candy Ebling is the mastermind behind it all. I got my piece out there. Okay, Jordan, go ahead.
You can follow me at SportsCube1 on Twitter. I have a blog that I write Mondays through Thursdays with podcasts on Fridays at sports-scoop.com. Of course, I'm here on 108 Stitches on Tuesday nights and also on Wednesdays on the Pundit's Pundit on the Sideline Sports Network, as well as other Sideline Sports Network shows.
All right, I'm going to go back to you, Sal. Why don't you let everybody know how they get a hold of you? I know you mentioned the book, but there's probably other ways.
Yeah, I have a website, World Series Chronology. I also have a Facebook page by the same name, Twitter. It usually follows me around because it's easy to remember. But on LinkedIn, I'm my name, Sal Tartaglia. Of course, I post 4 days a week, and then I put the ad on for the show the fifth day, and I put a copy of the Facebook version of our show after the day after the show. So you can find me on Facebook Live too. Liberty Bell Smack has his own page also. So yeah, I'm all over the place like you guys,
Well, you know what? I had the good fortune of being on your show. I believe it was last March. I really enjoyed that experience. You, Mark Mancini, and Marianne do a really fine job. All right, Chase, why don't you let everybody know how they can get a hold of you, my friend?
All right. If you like what you're seeing and listening to, well, first, subscribe right here to South Florida Tribune, where you could find me now on most Tuesday nights on 108 Stitches Baseball Talk. So that's your first way. If you want to talk with me, go on to Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok and friend at Loud Marlins Fan. You can't get much louder than I do, and I'm always in this hat at games, and you'll see me probably on social media dancing with it. So bring this in here. So that's where to find me. Of course, if you ever want to talk in general, at loudmarlinsfan@gmail.com for any inquiries. So thank you again for having me. Back to you, Scott.
Boy, I'll tell you, I'm afraid this guy's going to take my
You-
job.
You picked the plum there. You really did.
I know. You know what? I got news for you. It's a good problem I have. I like these young guys that are developing, but this guy isn't developing. I think, to me, he's taking the Indy 500 way around the track. That's all I can tell you. All right, George, I got to keep a straight face, and it's hard, so I'm going to let you promote your book while I still have
Yeah,
myself-
Sal and I are in competition. We both have books to sell. You can get it at Amazon.com. My book, Detroit Sports Broadcasters on the Air, the likes of Ernie Harwell, George Kell, Al Kaline, Harry Heilman, and Ty Tyson, great broadcasters in Tiger lore. And you can reach me at gicorn@yahoo.com, and also find me on Twitter at SandGSports99, and on LinkedIn under my name as well. And I'm also on 108 Stitches with Scott and the gang, and occasionally on the Sports Exchange, and also inside the Pigskin wherever Scott needs me. And we've been together 43 years, and Scott's in the book too. Thank goodness we got Scott interviewing Muhammad Ali and Jimmy Connors, and it makes a great Father's Day gift as well. So great to be part of the show tonight, guys.
Well, you might as well just call Andrew Martin another unofficial host of the show because they've done pretty well. In fact, all of Chase's people have been part of it, and we're pleased that they were able to join us. We hope they ultimately subscribe not only to me, but with Chase, because this kid's a fixture on my network, that's for sure. Guys like Chase make it easy for me not to lose my voice.
The cool thing is that in order to speak in the chat, they have to subscribe. So thank you for subscribing. Now go and tell your friends to go subscribe also.
God, I may have a sound bite written out of you. Do it for me. You're great, Chase, and all you guys. So what a great time here tonight. I always like having Sal on when we get an opportunity to bring him on. Thanks for joining us, Sal. Jordan, as always, you're as good as they get. George, well, never mind. We know what to expect after decades. And Chase, you're not a prospect. You're in the big leagues, buddy. That's all I can say. So,
Quickest call up in history. Woot.
yeah, I would say so.
I will remind Mark that he has to get you back on.
What, me? That'd be good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to coming back on. I feel better when I come back on because now we're really establishing this platform real well.
And George is welcome anytime. We had a good show when he was on.
We had fun.
Well, we always have fun with the three of us anyways, but I'm glad. So, Sal, I look forward to bringing you back in the not so distant future. Maybe we'll make you a regular on maybe once a month or once every 4 or 5 weeks if you feel like coming back.
Sounds
home.
good. Sounds good.
All right. So, meanwhile, on behalf of Chase, man, you're just a trip. That's all I can tell you. You're the best trip I've got here. But meanwhile, I'll try to keep a straight face one more time. On behalf of Jordan Long, George Eichhorn, Sal Tartaglia, and Chase Blake, my name is Scott Morgan, out the Motor City Madmouth. Thank you for joining us on this edition of 108 Stitches Baseball Talk. We will catch you the next time. Good night, everybody.
The,